Startup funding in 2024. Everything you need to know. You're planning on raising funding for your early stage startup this year, and you don't know what to expect. I've worked with a lot of startup CEOs over the past year that successfully raised funding. I know what it takes. In today's video, I'll share with you the 5 things you'll need to do to successfully raise your funding. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started. Let's start with the current funding environment for early stage startups. The good news is there is funding available for early stage startups. I've worked with CEOs around the world this past year, and every single CEO that I've worked with was able to raise their funding. However, every step in the process took longer than in boom times. The fundraising took longer, the due diligence process took longer, and the deal terms, while not as horrible as I've seen, weren't great either. The bottom line is, you're going to have to work really, really hard to get your startup funded. Each of the teams I work with that got funded had these 5 things that I'm sharing with you today. Let's start with the first one. Number 1, you've got the grit to go for it. Remember, I said that raising funding was going to take longer than you'd like. You're going to hear lots of no's from investors. You might hear no from an investor that gave you a term sheet and then passed at the final step in the diligence process. It happens. The great CEOs have the grit to get up off the ground again and again and keep going. For example, Greg had an investor pull out of his investor syndicate the day before his funding was supposed to close. This led to a gap in the funding needed to close the round. However, Greg had a backup plan to fill the gap just in case something like this happened. That's grit, and Greg's round closed on schedule. Let's move on to the second item on our list. Number 2, you and your team are truly great. The largest portion of the bet investors make when they invest in an early stage startup is on you, the CEO. If they don't believe in you, they will not invest. When money is tight, like it is now, the bar goes up. You're going to be under more scrutiny than you might have been previously. The investors have to believe that you are really, really good, and your team is really, really good. Now, what defines really, really good? I'd break it down into these 4 things. The first is integrity. Need we go any further? Why would an investor ever work with someone if they don't have integrity? Actually, I think we do need to go a little further. At every step in the investment process, you need to exhibit integrity. For example, Sam had to decide whether or not to tell investors that he was going to miss his revenue plan for the current quarter, right before his funding was going to close. Imagine that. Sam and I had a long talk about what to do, and he decided to let the investors know because he recognized that they would find out at some point anyway. Then, at that point, his relationship would be hurt if he hid the revenue miss from his investors. It was a gutsy move because it could have scared away investors and cost him his funding. However, his investors appreciated his honesty, and he closed his funding with his integrity intact. The second thing is be smart. In a tough funding environment, investors only want to work with the best of the best. I can't say it any clearer than this. If you don't think you're really good at what you do, you will not get funded. The third thing is passion. I don't care how much intelligence and integrity a CEO has. They will not succeed if they are not passionate about what they do. Investors are looking for you to have that passion about what your startup is doing. This doesn't mean that you have to be an extrovert. It does mean that you have to exhibit in a way that's true to yourself your excitement and belief in what your startup is doing. And the final one is yet again grit, number 4 on our list. I talked about grit earlier in this video, and I'm going to talk about it again right now. You're going to get punched in the mouth multiple times as you build your company. Investors want to know that you can handle the ups and downs that come with the job. They want you to find, like Greg did, a way to overcome whatever obstacle is thrown at you. Now let's move on to the third item on our list. Number 3, you're going to need traction to raise money. Traction is usually related to revenue, and in tough environments, you need more traction than you might have before. Let me give you an idea of what this looks like in a couple different scenarios. The first is if you're raising a round of funding between $50,000 and $500,000. In this case, you're likely going to need monthly revenue between $1,000 to $50,000 per month. The second is if you're raising a round between $500,000 to $5 million. You'll likely need monthly revenue between $50,000 per month and $500,000 per month in this case. Now, these numbers aren't etched in stone. They will vary from investor to investor. Just use these numbers as rough guidelines. Let's move on to the fourth thing you'll need. Number 4, you have the potential to build a category-leading great company. You're competing with all the other potential investments that an investor is considering. This isn't just in your category, it's in every category that they're considering. Remember, for every one investment that an investor makes, they will meet with 100 other potential investments. The bar is high, and you need to be truly excellent to raise your funding. This means that your company has to have the ability to produce the outsized returns that investors need to justify investing in your company. Finally, we're on to the last one on our list, number 5 on our list. Your pitch and your pitch deck are really well done. As I said earlier, a large part of the investor decision regarding early stage startups is about you, the CEO. You're being judged every time you interact with investors. That's why your pitch and your pitch deck have to be not just good, but excellent. Let me give you one piece of advice, straight from the late great Steve Jobs. Rehearse. Jobs would rehearse a 1-hour presentation over 100 times. That's how you get really good when you're pitching investors. Give it a try. Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. I have one final thought for you. Getting funding in today's environment requires you to be excellent in everything I mentioned in today's video. It's very unlikely you'll get everything right before you start pitching investors. You'll need to learn from the feedback you're getting from investors. So, you'll need to make some adjustments as you go through the process. For example, if you're hearing from every angel investor that you meet that you don't have enough traction to get funded, then you likely don't have enough traction. You'll have to find another way to survive until you do have enough traction. Now, what did you learn from today's video? put your answer in the comments column below today's video. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments column too, and I'll be happy to answer them for you. Now, I have one more thing for you today. It's my free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides you need to develop an awesome pitch deck. Click the link below today's video, and it's yours for free. And for more great content, click on the video at the end of today's video. And if you haven't already, then click the subscribe button to get notified every time I release a new video. I'm Brett at BrettJFox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.